In the far future, humanity had built wonders that defied belief. Among these marvels stood the Citadel, a massive prison floating in space near a cold, distant moon. It was a place designed to hold the worst criminals who had ever lived, those too dangerous or unpredictable for normal jails. For over 8 centuries, not one prisoner had managed to escape its walls. It was said that no human could break free from the Citadel's grasp. The story begins with Elena Carter, a woman locked away for crimes so strange and complex that even those who sentenced her didn't fully understand them. She wasn't loud or angry like many of the other inmates. Instead, she was quiet, almost peaceful, as if she knew something no one else did. People often wondered about her calmness. Was it because she accepted her fate? Or was there something more? Daniel Harper, the warden of the Citadel, took great pride in his work. Every day, he walked through the long steel corridors, checking every detail to make sure everything ran smoothly. He trusted the machines and technology that kept the prison secure. But lately, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Small things, a flicker on a screen here, a moment when someone seemed out of place there, kept nagging at him. Most of all, he felt uneasy about Elena Carter. Elena's cellmate was a man named Ryan Fowler. He was older, with rough hands and tired eyes. Ryan had been caught smuggling illegal goods across planets. At first, he ignored Elena, thinking she was just another prisoner. But over time, he noticed how odd she was. Sometimes guards would act strangely around her, as if they were scared of something they couldn't explain. Other times, lights near her cell would dim slightly, though no one could figure out why. One night, Ryan leaned close to her bunk and whispered, "You're up to something, aren't you?" Elena didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "Maybe I am," she said. "But what happens next isn't just about me," Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" Elena turned her head to look at him, her dark eyes reflecting the faint glow of the overhead light. "It means you'll have to decide whose side you're on." Though Ryan didn't fully understand her words, he couldn't stop thinking about them. Over the next few days, he paid closer attention to Elena. He saw how the guards avoided looking directly at her as if afraid of catching her gaze. He also noticed how some of the other prisoners whispered about her. Some called her dangerous. Others thought she might be special, maybe even magical. Whatever the truth was, Elena clearly had an effect on people. One afternoon, Daniel decided to visit Elena's cell himself. He wanted answers. As he approached, he noticed the air felt heavier, as though the very atmosphere resisted his presence. Standing outside her cell, he studied her carefully. She sat cross-legged on the floor, her back straight, her expression calm. If she noticed him, she gave no sign. "Why do you make everyone so uncomfortable?" Daniel asked after a moment. Elena tilted her head slightly as if considering his question. "Do I?" she replied. Her tone was light, almost playful, but there was a sharp edge beneath it. "Or are they uncomfortable because they don't understand me?" Daniel frowned. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get," Elena said simply. Frustrated, Daniel turned to leave. As he walked away, he glanced back once and saw her watching him. There was something in her gaze that made his skin crawl, as if she could see right through him. Shaking off the feeling, he returned to his office, determined to find out more about her. Later that week, something strange happened. While reviewing the surveillance footage, Daniel spotted something unusual. In one clip, Elena appeared to vanish for a split second before reappearing in the same spot. At first, he thought it might be a glitch in the system. But when he checked the logs, the AI confirmed that the cameras were functioning perfectly. No errors, no malfunctions, just a brief gap where Elena shouldn't have been visible. Confused, Daniel brought the issue to his assistant, a young woman named Grace Miller. Grace was smart and curious, always eager to solve problems. Together, they examined the footage again, frame by frame. They found nothing out of the ordinary except for the missing moment. Grace suggested running tests on the camera equipment, but deep down, both of them suspected the problem wasn't with the machines. Meanwhile, Elena continued her routine without change. She ate her meals, exercised in her cell, and occasionally Spoke to Ryan. To anyone watching, she seemed harmless. Yet the unease among the staff grew stronger. Guards began reporting strange dreams where Elena spoke to them in voices they couldn't forget. Others claimed to hear whispers in empty hallways, though no one was there. One evening, Grace stayed late to review the surveillance footage again. She had a hunch that the anomaly might repeat itself. Sure enough, just after midnight she saw it happen. This time, however, she noticed something new. A small object, no bigger than a coin, briefly appeared on the wall near Elena's cell. It shimmered faintly before disappearing completely. Shocked, Grace rushed to tell Daniel. By the time they returned to check the area, there was nothing left to find. The wall looked exactly as it should, smooth and unmarked. Still, Daniel couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. Something or someone was tampering with the Citadel systems. And Elena seemed to be at the center of it all. As the days passed, tensions inside the prison continued to rise. Arguments broke out between inmates, and even the guards started bickering among themselves. Some blamed Elena for the unrest, claiming she had cast some kind of spell over the place. Others dismissed the idea as nonsense, insisting that humans couldn't possess such powers. Despite the chaos, Elena remained calm. She observed everything quietly, taking note of every detail. Slowly, she began piecing together a plan. She knew the Citadel wasn't perfect. It couldn't be. Every system had flaws, every structure weak points. All she needed was time and allies. Her first recruit came unexpectedly. It was Samantha Blake, a former engineer serving a sentence for sabotaging a mining operation. Samantha had always been clever, finding ways to fix things even with limited resources. One day, while working in the maintenance tunnels, she stumbled upon a hidden compartment containing scraps of metal and wires. Curious, she traced their origin back to Elena's cell. When Samantha confronted her, Elena didn't deny anything. Instead, she smiled faintly and said, "I knew you'd come." "What is this?" Samantha demanded, holding up one of the pieces. "What are you building?" "A way out," Elena replied. "Will you help me?" Samantha hesitated. Helping a fellow prisoner escape was risky, especially in a place like the Citadel. But something about Elena's confidence intrigued her. Against her better judgment, she agreed, with Samantha's assistance. Elena began gathering materials and mapping out weaknesses in the prison's defenses. Ryan, though skeptical at first, eventually joined them too. His role was simple: distract the guards and spread misinformation. Though he didn't fully trust Elena, he couldn't deny the thrill of rebellion. As the group worked together, Daniel became more desperate to uncover the truth. He ordered random searches, tightened security protocols, and interrogated anyone who acted suspiciously. But no matter what he did, he couldn't catch Elena or her accomplices in the act. It was as if they existed just beyond his reach, moving unseen through the shadows. By the end of the month, Elena's plan was nearly complete. She had gathered everything she needed and identified the best opportunity to strike. Solar storm scheduled to hit in 2 weeks. During the storm, the Citadel's power grid would weaken, creating a window of opportunity. All she had to do was wait. For now, life in the prison carried on as usual. Guards patrolled the halls, inmates argued over trivial matters, and Daniel paced his office, searching for answers he couldn't find. Outside, the stars twinkled coldly, indifferent to the drama unfolding within the Citadel's walls. And somewhere in the depths of the fortress, Elena Carter waited patiently, knowing that soon, very soon, she would walk free. The days leading up to the solar storm passed slowly, but Elena wasted no time. She worked carefully, always staying one step ahead of the guards and the warden. Her calm demeanor never faltered, even as tensions inside the Citadel grew thicker. The other prisoners noticed it too. Some whispered that she was planning something big. Others thought she might be crazy. But no one could deny the strange energy surrounding her. Samantha Blake spent most of her time in the maintenance tunnels, gathering materials and helping Elena assemble what they needed. At first, Samantha had been nervous about getting involved. She didn't want to risk making her sentence worse. But as she worked with Elena, she began to feel a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. There was something magnetic about Elena, something that made people believe in her. Even when they didn't fully understand her, Ryan Fowler played his part by keeping the guards distracted. He wasn't much for technical work or careful planning, but he knew how to stir up trouble. Whenever a guard got too close to Elena's cell, Ryan would start an argument or cause a commotion elsewhere in the block. It wasn't hard to do. The inmates were already on edge, thanks to the growing unease in the prison. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by whispers of Elena's mysterious abilities. Some claimed she could control minds. Others said she could disappear into thin air. Whether any of it was true didn't matter. What mattered was that people believed it. Daniel Harper, the warden, felt the weight of everything pressing down on him. Every night he reviewed the surveillance footage, searching for clues. He replayed the moments where Elena seemed to vanish from view, trying to make sense of them. Each time he came up empty. The AI systems reported no errors, no breaches, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. One evening, as he sat alone in his office, Grace Miller walked in. She looked worried, holding a tablet in her hands. "Sir," she said hesitantly, "I think you need to see this." Grace placed the tablet on Daniel's desk and tapped the screen. A video clip played showing Elena standing near the wall of her cell. For a brief moment, the same small object Daniel had seen before reappeared, shimmering faintly before vanishing again. But this time there was more. As the object disappeared, the wall itself seemed to ripple, as though reality itself was bending. "What is that?" Daniel asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Grace admitted. "But I checked the logs. The cameras weren't malfunctioning. Whatever that thing is, it's real." Daniel leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "This isn't possible," he muttered. "Nothing can interfere with the Citadel systems. Nothing." Grace hesitated before speaking again. "Sir, maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Maybe it's not about the systems. Maybe it's about her? Her?" Daniel snapped, his patience wearing thin. "What are you suggesting? That she's some kind of witch?" Grace shook her head quickly. "Not exactly. But have you considered that she might not be entirely human? Think about it, her behavior, the way the guards react to her, the anomalies in the footage. None of it adds up unless... What?" Daniel demanded. Grace swallowed nervously. "Unless she's something else entirely." For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. He stared at the frozen image on the tablet, his mind racing. Could Grace be right? Was Elena Carter more than just a prisoner? And if so, what did that mean for the Citadel and for everyone inside it? While Daniel wrestled with these questions, Elena continued preparing for her escape. She and Samantha worked late into the night, piecing together tools that looked crude but served a precise purpose. Using scraps of metal and wires scavenged from the maintenance tunnels, they built devices capable of disrupting the energy fields that kept the cells secure. These gadgets were small enough to avoid detection yet powerful enough to create temporary gaps in the containment field. Elena explained her plan to Samantha in simple terms. "When the solar storm hits, the power will fluctuate," she said. "That's when we strike. We'll use the tools to disable the field around my cell, then move quickly to reach the escape pods." "And what happens after that?" Samantha asked. Elena smiled faintly. "We'll worry about that later." Though Samantha trusted Elena, she couldn't help feeling uneasy. The plan sounded straightforward, but escaping the Citadel was no small feat. Even if they managed to break free, the odds of surviving in space were slim. Still, she pushed her doubts aside. For the first time in years, she felt alive. If this was her chance to fight back against the system that had imprisoned her, she wasn't going to waste it. Ryan, meanwhile, kept the guards busy with his antics. One day, he started a food fight in the cafeteria, throwing trays and shouting insults at anyone who dared look his way. Another day, he convinced a group of inmates to stage a mock protest, chanting nonsense slogans and banging on their cell doors. The guards scrambled to restore order, completely unaware of what was happening behind the scenes. As the solar storm approached, the atmosphere in the Citadel became electric. Everyone could feel it, the tension, the anticipation, the sense that something big was about to happen. The prisoners grew restless, their arguments escalating into fights. The guards, already on edge, responded with increasing aggression. Even the machines seemed to hum louder, as if reacting to the storm brewing outside. Daniel noticed the change and ordered extra patrols throughout the facility. He doubled the number of guards stationed near Elena's cell, hoping to catch her, in the act if she tried anything. But Elena remained calm, almost eerily so. She watched the chaos unfold around her, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. On the morning of the solar storm, the skies darkened as charged particles streamed toward the moon. Inside the citadel, the lights flickered intermittently, and the air crackled with static electricity. Daniel paced his office, unable to sit still. He had a bad feeling about today, though he couldn't explain why. Grace stayed by his side, monitoring the systems for any signs of trouble. Down in the maintenance tunnels, Elena, Samantha, and Ryan gathered for a final meeting. They went over the plan one last time, ensuring everyone knew their role. Elena handed Samantha a small device, instructing her to place it near the power core during the storm. "This will amplify the disruption," she explained. "It'll give us just enough time to get out," Ryan nodded grimly. "And once we're out, what then? We disappear," Elena said simply. "The universe is vast. They won't find us." With that, they split up, each heading to their assigned positions. Samantha slipped through the shadows, carrying the device carefully. Ryan returned to his cell, ready to cause another distraction. Elena waited patiently in her cell, her eyes fixed on the clock counting down to the storm's peak. As the hours ticked by, the tension reached a breaking point. The lights flickered more violently now, and alarms began to blare. Guards rushed through the halls, trying to maintain order amidst the chaos. In the control room, Daniel shouted orders, his voice barely audible over the noise. Grace frantically typed commands into the computer, attempting to stabilize the power grid. Then it happened. The solar storm hit with full force, sending waves of energy crashing into the citadel. Lights went out across the facility, plunging sections of the prison into darkness. Emergency backups kicked in, but they were sluggish and unreliable. Amid the confusion, Samantha reached the power core and activated the device Elena had given her. Instantly, the energy field surrounding the cells flickered and died. Elena sprang into action. With a swift motion, she disabled the lock on her cell door and stepped out into the corridor. Guards rushed toward her, weapons drawn, but she moved with unnatural speed, dodging their attacks effortlessly. Ryan joined her moments later, having broken free during the chaos. Together, they fought their way toward the escape pods, with Samantha trailing close behind. Daniel realized what was happening too late. By the time he reached the scene, Elena and her companions were already halfway to freedom. He shouted for reinforcements, but the storm's interference rendered communication spotty at best. Desperate, he chased after them himself, determined to stop them. In the end, it came down to a confrontation in the docking bay. Daniel confronted Elena, his weapon trained on her. "You're not leaving," he growled. "I won't let you." Elena met his gaze calmly, her expression unreadable. "You don't have a choice," she said softly. Then, without warning, she raised her hand, and the world around Daniel shifted. Time slowed, then reversed. Moments later, he found himself standing alone, disoriented and confused. The escape pod launched into the void, carrying Elena, Samantha, and Ryan away from the citadel. As the storm subsided and the lights returned, the prison fell silent. The inmates stared in awe, unsure of what had just happened. Daniel stumbled back to his office, haunted by the memory of Elena's glowing eyes and the echo of her voice in his mind. The unbreakable citadel had been breached, and Elena Carter had proven that no prison could truly contain someone like her. The escape pod shot away from the citadel, its engines roaring as it hurtled into the vast emptiness of space. Inside, Elena Carter sat quietly, her hands resting on her knees. Samantha Blake and Ryan Fowler were still catching their breath, their hearts pounding from the adrenaline of what they had just done. The three of them were crammed into the small, dimly lit compartment, surrounded by blinking lights and humming machinery. For a while, no one spoke. They simply listened to the sound of the engines and stared out the narrow viewport at the shrinking silhouette of the citadel. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. "That was insane," he muttered, running a hand through his grizzled hair. "We actually did it. We're free." Samantha nodded, though her expression was uneasy. She glanced at Elena, who hadn't moved or said a word since they left the prison. "What now?" she asked. "Where do we go?" Elena turned her head slightly, her dark eyes meeting Samantha's. "Somewhere far away," she replied. Her voice was calm, almost soothing, but there was an edge to it that made Samantha shiver. "Somewhere they won't find us." Ryan frowned. "You keep saying they. Who exactly are you talking about? The guards? The government?" Elena didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned forward and tapped a few commands into the pod's navigation system. A map of nearby star systems appeared on the screen, glowing faintly in the dim light. She pointed to a cluster of planets near the edge of the galaxy. "We'll head there for now," she said. "It's remote, uninhabited, safe." Ryan crossed his arms. "Safe? How do you know that? What if someone's already there? Or worse, what if they come looking for us?" "They won't," Elena said firmly. "Not yet." Samantha narrowed her eyes. "What aren't you telling us, Elena? You've been planning this for weeks, maybe longer, but you haven't told us everything. Why did you choose us, and why does it feel like you're not human?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unspoken until Samantha voiced it. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, glancing between the two women. He had wondered the same thing, but hadn't dared to ask. Now, with the words out in the open, he waited anxiously for Elena's response. For a moment, Elena said nothing. She stared at Samantha, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she sighed. "You're right," she admitted. "I'm not entirely human, not anymore." "What does that mean?" Ryan asked, his voice tinged with both fear and curiosity. Elena hesitated before speaking again. "Centuries ago, scientists conducted experiments, dangerous ones. They tried to push the limits of human potential, to create something greater than ourselves. I was one of those experiments. But something went wrong. My body changed, my mind expanded, I became different." "How?" Samantha pressed. "I can see things others can't," Elena explained. "I can manipulate reality in small ways. Bend time, alter perception. It's why the Citadel couldn't hold me. It's why I knew you two would help me." Ryan scratched his head, trying to process what he was hearing. "So you're saying you're some kind of superhuman? Like a mutant or something?" Elena shook her head. "Not a mutant. Something else. Something beyond human." Samantha frowned. "If you're so powerful, why didn't you escape sooner? Why wait all these years?" "It wasn't just about escaping," Elena said softly. "I needed to understand myself first, to figure out who or what I am. The Citadel gave me time to think, to prepare, and now—" She trailed off, gazing out the viewport at the endless expanse of stars. "Now I have a chance to find answers." Ryan let out a low whistle. "This is wild, completely wild. So, what happens when we get to wherever we're going? Are you just gonna leave us there? Or are we part of your grand plan too?" Elena looked at him, her expression softening slightly. "You helped me because you wanted freedom. That's yours now. If you want to stay with me, you can. But if you'd rather go your own way, I won't stop you." Samantha bit her lip, thinking hard. On one hand, she owed Elena her freedom. On the other, the idea of traveling with someone so unnatural made her nervous. Still, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward Elena. There was something magnetic about her, something that inspired loyalty despite the fear. "I'll stay," Samantha said finally, "at least for now. I want to see where this goes." Ryan hesitated longer, weighing his options. He wasn't sure he trusted Elena completely, but he also knew he wouldn't last long on his own. "Fine," he said gruffly. "I'm in. But if things get weird, I'm out." Elena nodded. "Fair enough." Back at the Citadel, chaos reigned. The power grid had stabilized, but the damage was done. Reports flooded in from every corner of the facility, detailing breaches in security, missing equipment, and strange anomalies that defied explanation. Daniel Harper paced his office, his face pale and drawn. He had failed. After 847 years of perfect security, the Citadel had been compromised. And it was all because of one woman. Grace Miller stood nearby, holding a tablet filled with data she had collected during the storm. "Sir, we need to figure out what happened," she said gently. "People are scared. They're asking questions we can't answer." Daniel stopped pacing and turned to face her. "What do you want me to say, Grace? That a prisoner escaped using magic, that she bent time and space to her will? No one will believe that." "Maybe not," Grace admitted, "but we have to try. We owe it to everyone here, to humanity itself, to understand what we're dealing with." Daniel sighed heavily. "And what if we can't? What if she's something we can't comprehend?" Grace didn't respond. She didn't have an answer. Instead, she handed him the tablet. "Look at this," she said. "It's footage from the docking bay, just before the escape pod launched." Daniel took the tablet and played the clip. The video showed Elena standing calmly as guards closed in on her. Then suddenly she raised her hand and everything froze. The guards stopped moving, their weapons suspended midair. Moments later, the scene shifted, the guards vanished, and Elena walked toward the pod without resistance. Daniel stared at the screen, his stomach churning. "This is impossible," he whispered. "It can't be real." "It is," Grace sighed quietly. "Whatever she is, she's not bound by the same rules as us." Daniel sank into his chair, his mind racing. He thought about the rumors he had heard, the whispers of prisoners claiming Elena could control minds or disappear into thin air. At the time, he had dismissed them as nonsense. Now he wasn't so sure. "We need to warn Earth," he said finally. "If she's out there, unchecked, who knows what she might do?" Grace nodded. "Agreed. But how do we explain this without sounding crazy?" Daniel rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we have to try." As the escape pod continued its journey, Elena kept watch over the controls, occasionally adjusting the course. Samantha and Ryan slept fitfully in their seats, exhausted from the events of the past few days. Elena, however, remained awake, her thoughts drifting to the future. She had spent centuries locked away, unable to explore the universe beyond the Citadel's walls. Now, for the first time, she was free. Free to search for answers about her origins, free to discover what lay beyond the stars. But she also knew her escape would have consequences. Humanity wouldn't let her go easily. They would hunt her, study her, try to understand her. And when they couldn't, they would fear her. Elena glanced at Samantha and Ryan, their faces peaceful in sleep. She had chosen them for a reason. They were survivors, people who understood the value of freedom. Whether they stayed with her or went their separate ways, she hoped they would remember her not as a monster, but as someone who had given them a second chance. Outside the pod, the stars stretched endlessly, their light flickering faintly against the blackness of space. Elena smiled softly, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. For now, she was free, and that was enough. The escape pod drifted silently through space, its engines humming softly as it followed the course Elena had set. Days passed in quiet monotony, broken only by brief conversations and the occasional check of the navigation system. Samantha and Ryan tried to adjust to their new reality, but it wasn't easy. The vast emptiness outside the viewport was both beautiful and terrifying, a constant reminder of how far they were from anything familiar. Elena remained calm, as always. She spent most of her time studying the stars, her eyes fixed on the distant clusters of light. Sometimes she would mutter under her breath calculations or fragments of thoughts that neither Samantha nor Ryan could fully understand. They watched her cautiously, unsure of what to make of her. Was she truly human or something else entirely? One evening, as the three of them sat in silence, Ryan finally spoke up. "So where are we headed again?" he asked, breaking the quiet. "You mentioned some remote planets, but you never really explained why." Elena turned her head slightly, her gaze steady. It's not just about finding a place to hide, she said. I'm looking for answers. About myself. About why I was created and why I survived when so many others didn't. Samantha frowned. Others? You mean there were more like you? Elena nodded. Yes, but they didn't last long. Their bodies couldn't handle the changes. Mine did, though barely. I've spent centuries trying to understand why. Ryan leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. And you think you'll find these answers out here? In the middle of nowhere? Maybe, Elena replied. Or maybe not. But I have to try. Samantha crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. What if we don't find anything? What? Then we keep moving, Elena said simply. There's no end to this journey, not yet. Back at the Citadel, Daniel Harper struggled to piece together what had happened. The surveillance footage showed Elena manipulating time and space, but no one believed him when he tried to explain it. To most people, it sounded like science fiction or worse, madness. Even Grace Miller, who had seen the evidence firsthand, found it hard to accept. We can't tell anyone the truth, Grace said one night as they reviewed the data in Daniel's office. They'll think we're crazy. Daniel sighed, rubbing his temples, but we can't just ignore it either. If she's out there, unchecked, she could be a threat to us, to Earth, to everyone. Grace hesitated before speaking again. Do you really think she's dangerous? I don't know, Daniel admitted. She broke out of the most secure prison in history without breaking a sweat. That alone makes her unpredictable. And if she's capable of bending reality, Grace nodded slowly. We need to warn someone who can handle this kind of thing. Daniel thought for a moment. There's a research facility on Europa. They specialize in advanced sciences things. Most people wouldn't even believe. Maybe they can help us figure out what we're dealing with. Grace agreed, and together, they drafted a confidential report detailing everything they knew about Elena. It included the surveillance footage, witness statements, and their own observations. They encrypted the file and sent it to the facility, hoping someone there would take them seriously. Meanwhile, the escape pod approached the first of the remote planets Elena had chosen. It was a barren world, its surface covered in jagged rocks and endless deserts. As they landed, Ryan looked out the viewport and groaned. This place looks like a graveyard, he muttered. Are you sure this is where you want to start your search? Elena didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed a small device from her pack and stepped out onto the planet's surface. Samantha and Ryan followed reluctantly, their boots crunching against the dry ground. The air was thin and cold, making it hard to breathe without helmets. Elena walked purposefully, scanning the horizon with the device in her hand. After a while, she stopped near a cluster of strange rock formations. This is it, she said, her voice low. This is what? Ryan asked, glancing around nervously. I don't see anything special. Elena knelt down and touched the ground. Instantly, the rocks began to glow faintly, revealing intricate patterns etched into their surfaces. Samantha gasped, stepping back instinctively. What is that? She asked. A map, Elena replied. Of sorts. These markings were left by someone or something long ago. They might lead me to the answers I'm looking for. Ryan shook his head. This is nuts. We're following glowing rocks now. It's better than sitting around waiting for someone to find us, Samantha snapped. Besides, do you have a better idea? Ryan opened his mouth to argue, but closed it again. He did in single quotes stay. Elena traced the patterns with her fingers, her brow furrowed in concentration. These symbols, they're similar to ones I've seen before. In my memories, they're part of the experiments. Samantha crouched beside her, peering at the markings. What do they mean? I'm not sure yet, Elena admitted. But they're guiding me somewhere important. As they studied the rocks, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Dust rose into the air, obscuring their vision. Ryan stumbled backward, shouting, What's happening? Elena stood up quickly, her eyes wide. We need to move, now. Before they could react, the ground split open, revealing a hidden chamber below. A soft blue light emanated from within, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Elena hesitated for only a moment before stepping inside. Motioning for the others to follow, the chamber was filled with ancient machinery, its surfaces covered in dust and grime. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, matching the ones they had seen outside. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystal-like object pulsing with energy. "What is this place?" Samantha whispered, her voice trembling. "I think it's a lab," Elena said, "or what's left of one." "This must be where the experiments began," Ryan frowned. "You mean this is where you came from?" "Where they made you." Elena nodded. "Possibly, but there's more to it than that." She approached the pedestal cautiously, reaching out to touch the crystal. As soon as her fingers brushed its surface, the room lit up, bathing them in a brilliant white light. Images flashed before their eyes, scenes of scientists working feverishly, of test subjects writhing in agony, of a young girl standing alone in a sterile room. Elena staggered back, clutching her head. "It's too much," she muttered. "Too fast." Samantha rushed to her side, steadying her. "Are you okay?" Elena took a deep breath, her expression grim. "I saw it, everything, the experiments, the failures, the lives lost. All of it." Ryan stared at the crystal, his face pale. "So what does it mean? What are we supposed to do with this?" Elena straightened, her resolve returning. "We take it with us. It holds the key to understanding who I am and, maybe, how to stop whatever comes next." By the time they returned to the escape pod, the sun was setting over the barren landscape, casting long shadows across the ground. Elena carried the crystal carefully, wrapping it in cloth to protect it. Samantha and Ryan helped her load it into the ship, their movements quick and efficient. As they prepared for liftoff, Ryan glanced at Elena. "You realize this isn't going to end, right? People are going to come after us. The government, the military, they won't stop until they get their hands on that thing." "I know," Elena said quietly. "But we'll deal with that when it happens." Samantha tightened her grip on the controls, her jaw set. "Then let's hope we're ready." The engines roared to life, lifting the pod off the surface of the planet. Behind them, the glowing chamber faded into darkness, its secrets locked away once more. Ahead, the stars stretched endlessly, beckoning them forward. For now, they were safe, but Elena knew their journey was far from over. Whatever answers lay ahead, she was determined to find them, even if it meant risking everything. The escape pod sailed through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming steadily as it carried Elena, Samantha, and Ryan farther from the Citadel and the secrets they had uncovered on the barren planet. The crystal sat securely in a padded compartment, its faint glow casting an eerie light across the small cabin. None of them spoke much during the journey. They were all lost in their thoughts, trying to make sense of what they had seen and what it might mean for their future. Elena stared out the viewport, her mind racing. The images from the hidden chamber haunted her, scenes of pain, experimentation, and loss. She had always known she was different, but now she understood just how deep those differences ran. The experiments hadn't merely altered her body. They had rewritten her very existence. She wasn't just a product of science. She was something entirely new, a bridge between humanity and something greater. Samantha noticed Elena's distant expression and leaned closer. "You okay?" she asked softly. Elena blinked, pulling herself back to the present. "I'm fine," she replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. "Just thinking about what you saw back there." Elena nodded. "It changes things, knowing where I came from, why I was made. But it doesn't answer everything." Ryan, who had been dozing in his seat, stirred at the sound of their voices. "What are we supposed to do with that thing anyway?" he asked, jerking his thumb toward the crystal. "It's not like we can sell it or trade it for supplies." "We keep it safe," Elena said firmly. "For now, that's all we can do. It holds answers we need if we're going to survive." Ryan frowned. "Survive what?" "You keep talking about whatever comes next, but you never explain what that means." "I don't know yet," Elena admitted, "but I can feel it. Something big is coming, something that will change everything." Back on Earth, news of the Citadel's breach spread quickly, though the details were heavily censored. Official. Reports claim the escape was due to a technical malfunction caused by a solar storm. No mention was made of Elena's abilities or the strange anomalies witnessed by the staff. To the public, it was just another story of rare failure in an otherwise flawless system, but behind closed doors, governments and organizations scrambled to respond. The encrypted report sent by Daniel Harper and Grace Miller reached the research facility on Europa, where scientists pored over the data with growing unease. The footage of Elena manipulating time and space sparked heated debates among the team. Some dismissed it as impossible. Others argued that it proved humanity was on the brink of discovering or rediscovering technology far beyond current understanding. One scientist, Dr. LeVar Bennett, took particular interest in the case. A specialist in theoretical physics, she had spent years studying anomalies in space-time. When she reviewed the footage, her eyes widened. "This isn't just advanced tech," she murmured. "This is evolution, or maybe revolution." Her colleagues were skeptical. "You're saying this woman is some kind of evolutionary leap?" one of them asked. Dr. Bennett nodded. "Exactly. And if she's out there unchecked, we need to find her before someone else does." The facility launched a classified mission to locate Elena, assembling a team of experts equipped with cutting-edge technology. Their orders were clear: bring her in alive for study. Meanwhile, the escape pod arrived at its next destination, a remote moon orbiting a gas giant. Its surface was covered in icy plains and jagged mountains, glowing faintly under the light of a distant sun. Elena chose this location because it matched coordinates etched into the crystal. Whatever secrets the object held, they seemed tied to specific places scattered across the galaxy. As they landed, Samantha peered out the viewport, shivering despite the warmth inside the pod. "This place gives me the creeps," she muttered. "Feels like no one's been here in centuries." "That's probably true," Elena said, grabbing a scanner and stepping outside. The cold air bit at her skin, even through her suit. "But someone was here once. Someone important." Ryan followed reluctantly, his breath fogging up his visor. "You sure about this?" "What if it's a trap?" "If it is, we'll deal with it," Elena said simply. "We don't have a choice." The trio trudged across the icy terrain, following the scanner's readings until they reached a massive structure buried beneath layers of ice. Using tools from the pod, they cleared away enough of the frozen surface to reveal a metal hatch. Elena examined it closely, running her gloved fingers over the alien symbols engraved around its edges. "This looks familiar," she said, pulling out the crystal. As soon as she touched it to the hatch, the symbols lit up, and the door hissed open, revealing a dark passageway leading downward. Inside, the temperature dropped sharply and the air grew thick with static electricity. The walls shimmered faintly, as if alive, and strange whispers echoed through the corridors. Ryan gripped his flashlight tightly, scanning the shadows nervously. "Is anyone else hearing that?" he asked. "It's part of the place," Elena replied. "Memories, maybe. Or warnings." They moved cautiously, guided by the crystal's glow. Eventually, they entered a large chamber filled with towering machines and glowing panels. In the center stood a pedestal similar to the one they had found on the barren planet. This time, however, the object resting on it wasn't a crystal. It was a sphere, pulsating with vibrant colors. "What is that?" Samantha whispered, her voice trembling. "A key," Elena said. "A piece of something bigger." Before she could approach the sphere, alarms blared and lights flashed throughout the chamber. The ground trembled violently, forcing them to brace themselves against the walls. From the shadows emerged mechanical drones, their sleek designs indicating they were far more advanced than anything humanity had created. "They knew we were coming," Ryan shouted, backing away as the drones advanced. "No," Elena corrected. They've been waiting." She stepped forward, raising her hand. Time seemed to slow as the drones froze mid-motion, their systems disrupted by whatever force Elena unleashed. Seizing the moment, she grabbed the sphere and turned to the others. "Let's go." They ran back through the passageway, the alarms growing louder behind them. Just as they reached the surface, the entire structure began collapsing, sending chunks of ice crashing down around them. They barely made it to the escape pod before the entrance sealed itself shut. Disappearing beneath the frozen landscape, once safely aboard the pod, Elena placed the sphere alongside the crystal. Together, the two objects resonated, creating a low hum that filled the cabin. Ryan collapsed into his seat, breathing heavily. "That was too close," he muttered. "How many more death traps are we gonna walk into?" "As many as it takes," Elena said, "until we find what we're looking for." Samantha looked at her, concern etched on her face. "And then what? Once we have all the pieces, what happens next?" Elena hesitated, her gaze fixed on the glowing artifacts. "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it'll change everything for better or worse." Weeks later, the search for Elena intensified. The team from Europa tracked the escape pod's trajectory using advanced sensors, narrowing down its location. Ships were dispatched to intercept her, their crews prepared for anything on board the pod. Elena sensed the pursuit. She didn't panic. Instead, she smiled faintly. "They're coming," she said to Samantha and Ryan, "but they won't catch us." "How can you be so sure?" Samantha asked. "Because I'm not done yet," Elena replied. "Not by a long shot." As the chase unfolded, Elena activated a hidden function in the pod systems, triggering a burst of speed that left their pursuers far behind. For now, they were safe. But Elena knew the fight was far from over. In the end, she wasn't running just to survive. She was running to understand, to uncover the truth about her origins and the role she was meant to play in the universe. Whether she would save humanity or reshape it entirely remained to be seen. For now, the stars stretched endlessly ahead, calling her forward. And Elena Carter, the woman who broke free from 847 years of perfect security, continued her journey into the unknown.